Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, January 6th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, January 6th is usually known as the Feast of the Three Kings, the Feast of the Epiphany. However, we see this is oftentimes combined with Marian devotions. Why might that be? Well, one of the few passages that we have regarding Mary in the scriptures is actually the one where the three kings come. For instance, Matthew chapter 2, verse 11. And when they came into the house, that is the kings, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So, for instance, today, we have the celebration of Inmaculada Concepción de Guarda Viejo in Guatemala City in Guatemala. Now, you may be thinking that's kind of a strange day to have a procession in honor of the Immaculate Conception. Yes, but actually this is the closing of a celebration that started on December 7th, the Vigil of the Immaculate Conception. In fact, they've celebrated for an entire month. This statue of the Immaculate Conception is a very old one, right? Probably it came there in about the 1800s at least, right? In spite of the efforts of someone to destroy it in 1987, the statue was reconsecrated and on this day, January 6, 2003, by Cardinal Quisada Toruño, the Archbishop of Guatemala. The tradition is that on January 6th, the believers process with the statue through the city as they pray. Now we'll jump over to Naples, Italy, where they celebrate the Madonna del Buon Consiglio, Our Lady of Good Counsel. This image was solemnly crowned on this day, January 6, 1912, and the first stone of the basilica was placed on this day as well in 1920. Speaking of the first stone of the cathedral in Monaco, entitled the cathedral with the name Notre Dame Immaculée, Our Lady Immaculate, had the first stone placed in 1875. If we jump down to Colombia, in Paz de Ariporo, Casanare, they celebrate La Virgen del Manare, Our Lady of Manare. Likewise, there is a tradition that says that today was the day of Jesus' first public miracle performed at Mary's request. If you recall, that's the wedding feast at Cana. You can find that in John 2, verses 1 through 10. And for this reason, sometimes today is celebrated as the Feast of Our Lady of Cana. Lastly, we have the first apparition of the Madonna del Divin Pianto in Cernusco sul Naviglio in Milan, Italy. Right, so Our Lady of Divin Pianto, Our Lady of divine tears, right? So, what happened in 1924? Well, there was a house, it was like a nursing home essentially, for the Marceline Institute, or for religious sisters, right? And this little nursing home they kept for old and sick sisters. But among these, there was a young sister, Sister Elisabetta Redaelli. She had been sick for 2 years. And yeah, pretty much everyone said she was at the end of her life. She was paralyzed, she had been blind for a year, and this sickness just kept getting worse. Now, on the night of January 6, 1924, the other sisters who were there taking care of the ill heard Sister Elisabetta speak in a loud voice. They thought maybe she was dreaming. But she wasn't dreaming at all. She was, in fact, conversing, as she would say later, with a beautiful woman who had come to visit her. The lady comforted Sister and told her to suffer for the love of God. And so what Sister understood was that this lady would come back. She said, I'll come back on, the night between the 2nd and the 3rd, presumably of February, and I will heal you. And so, obviously, Sister was very encouraged by this. But the problem is that between the 2nd and 3rd of February, nothing happened. It reached the point that between the night of the 22nd and 23rd of February, that Sister was in very, very bad shape. In fact, 15 days earlier, she had been almost completely paralyzed. She couldn't speak, she couldn't eat, she couldn't move any of her arms or legs. There was basically no movement whatsoever. The doctor who was in charge told the sisters, it's a question of hours. You should continue and stay with her throughout the night. In fact, there were 2 sisters there who looked after her, a nurse and another one, and these 2 would later be witnesses of the miraculous event. It was about 11:45 at night. All of a sudden, the sick sister just kind of like jumps up. They thought that she had died. But no. Sister Elizabeth shouts out. She says, "Oh, my lady, my lady." She said, "I thought you said you would come on the, the lady." Our lady replied, "No, I told you I would come between the 22nd and the 23rd. And Elizabeth replied, "Oh, between the 22nd and 23rd? I thought you had said between the 2nd and the 3rd. No. It's kind of funny that she would miss something that important, but that's okay. In the end, she was perfectly healed and lived a long life. That's Our Lady for you, taking care of the sick. For today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we continue reading chapter 4, wherein the saint compares Mary's heart with the Temple of Jerusalem. Not only is her heart entirely covered with King Solomon's gold, but it is itself wrought of the finest and purest gold, of a metal infinitely more precious than all the material gold to be found in the universe. The heart of our amiable mother is filled with the love of God and charity towards us. It is entirely transformed into love and charity, and completely identified with the purest love and the most perfect charity. Its love is more ardent, more pure and divine, its charity more fervent, holier and more excellent than the love and charity of all the seraphim. The Temple of Mary contains all the riches of God together with all the treasures of heaven and earth, because it keeps within its cloister all the mysteries of the life of the Son of God. His mother kept all these things in her heart. That's Luke 2:51. Her heart possesses the very Son of God himself, the treasure of the eternal Father, who encompasses all the wealth and beauty of the most holy Trinity. In this temple, Christ, the sovereign priest, offered his first sacrifice at the time of the Incarnation. Christ, the doctor of doctors and the preacher of preachers, who taught and preached so often in the Temple of Jerusalem, imparts to us from the temple of his mother's heart as many instructions and lessons as there are virtues exemplified in this virginal heart. In this temple, God is adored more profoundly and worthily, praised and glorified more perfectly than all other material or spiritual temples that ever were and shall be in heaven and on earth, the sacred humanity of Jesus alone excepted. The smallest acts of virtue, and even the prayerful thoughts of Mary's holy heart, are more agreeable to the divine majesty, and render God greater honor and glory than the greatest actions of the foremost among the saints. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we conclude meditation 25, which is, again, on the Annunciation, but focusing on Mary as the handmaid of the Lord. And here, the second point is entitled, True Servitude. But you must not limit yourself to mere lip service. You also have often raised to God words of suffering, of surrender, of servitude. Yes, but then afterwards, how have you kept your word? With Mary it was otherwise. She says what she feels, and she does what she says. On account of that, she repeats, "Be it done to me according to thy word." Ponder and relish the world of meaning enclosed in the word fiat, be it done, the formula of true servitude to God. I am a handmaid, and therefore I have nothing. I can want nothing except God. Everything must come from God, nothing from the handmaid. Fiat, then, implies a total renunciation, a complete, perfect, and absolute surrender of her being. Neither self-will, nor freedom, nor choice. Only what God wants and orders. Sublime servitude indeed. But there is still more. This servitude must not halt in the face of any sacrifice, heavy and painful though it be. Mary at this point proceeds quite cautiously. She is perfectly aware of the steps she is taking. Without haste, she thinks, ponders things over, raises objections to the angel, advancing reasons, suggesting solutions. All this is a clear sign that she is proceeding with full knowledge. She knows from now on that all that she must suffer, if she is going to be the Mother of God. She knows in advance the tortures lying in wait for her. She appreciates that to be a co-redemptrix will mean wading through a sea of bitter sorrows. Nevertheless, she knows that such is God's will, hence that suffices. Until she clearly knows what God wants, she raises some difficulties. But as soon as she knows the will of God, she has naught to say than, "Be it done." remember the words of Christ in his passion. He also said, "Let thy will, not mine, be done." Is not this fiat the same as that of his mother? This is real servitude, real sanctity, the only way we can overcome self-love. Are you like your mother? Do you also say, "Let God's will be done," especially when self-love rises in rebellion? Why do you not ask your mother to help you follow her example, in order that you also may do the holy will of God?
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.